Tongue piercings. How can you avoid doing damage to your teeth, your gums, and the bone structure of your mouth? Coming up next on Body Piercing Basics, episode number 54. So stick around. For those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about these things, I'm talking to you at a level of expertise as someone who has done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of tongue piercings and help people size that jewelry correctly and help reduce the likelihood of damage. This particular video subject came from a comment from one of our viewers who had asked me to do a video pertaining to this particular subject and had asked a few questions. The thing with tongue piercings or any oral piercing, and one of the things you need to consider, number one, is that there's three major risks whenever you get any type of jewelry in your mouth. And those are damage to teeth, gums, in the bone structure of your mouth. This is because we have a metal object inside your mouth which is not used to having hard metal objects banging against it and grinding against it and tapping against it, etc. So those things can lead to problems. First and foremost, when it comes down to reducing the amount of damage you're going to see, it starts from the very beginning, and it starts with anatomy. When somebody comes in to get a tongue piercing, I will usually have them bring their tongue out and flip up just the very tip of it so that I can gauge exactly where that tendon is and where it's going to be safe to do the piercing. The tongue kind of bends upward, kind of like that. And generally what we try to do is at an angle like so. The reason is because it fits more comfortably into the mouth. We don't want that angle to be steep like this because then you're going to have contact with gums. We don't want it so straight up and down because then you're going to have contact with the roof of your mouth and possibly your front teeth. We kind of want it to fit that natural curve that it has. The voidium tendon comes on the underside. It's that white thing with the webbing that you see when you open your mouth. Usually a tongue piercing is placed safely at least 1/8 of an inch in front of that, angled backwards slightly, not steeply. Also, another thing we want to take into consideration is blood vessels and other objects that we do not want to hit when we do the piercing. Now, as far as how far back it is or how far forward it is, it used to be that, well, it still is. When somebody came in to get a tongue piercing, we would ask, do you want to make it very useful or do you want to make it as safe as possible? Personally, I no longer ask that question. The more forward the piercing is, supposedly, the more you can use it. But the more forward it is, the more likely you are to chip teeth, cause gum erosion mainly, and cause structure damage to the bones in your mouth. So now with placement and anatomy out of the way, let's move on to the jewelry itself. Initially, when we pierce a tongue, we oversize the jewelry. We do it where there's roughly anywhere from 3/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of play in that jewelry, just to make sure that there is more than enough room during the swelling process. Tongues will usually swell from anywhere from 3 to 5 days. Some people see very little swelling. Some people see a lot of swelling. It comes down to your diet. It comes down to your health and if you're prone to inflammation. Once that swelling goes down, you want to downsize to a shorter barbell. I usually suggest doing it within a week to 10 days just to reduce the amount of frustration that longer barbell causes and also the possibility of damage to teeth and gums. So when sizing it, we want it short enough that it is not going to constantly have contact when you close your mouth with the roof of your mouth and the bottom, and doesn't cause the barbell to move this way or that way from the pressure of having your mouth shut. The other thing is we want it long enough that it allows you to expand and contract your tongue like you do naturally and move around in your mouth so that you can eat properly and talk properly. We don't want to affect the speech. In some cases, having it a little too short and having the jewelry kind of nest a little bit is a better option than having jewelry that's too long. The longer the jewelry, the more contact it's going to have with things in your mouth, and the more likely you are to have issues. Nesting, for those that don't know, is where it kind of creates that soft tissue kind of creates an indentation that is basically about a quarter to a third of the ball's actual size that just kind of nestles in there or nests, so to speak, in that soft tissue. This isn't a problem or something you should be concerned about unless that tissue starts to get larger than roughly half the size of the ball. If you let it lay flat and you can only see half the ball, you might want to keep a close eye on it or possibly switch to something larger. Another thing to consider when you're picking out jewelry to wear on a regular basis in a tongue piercing is try to find jewelry that is measured either in millimeters or sixteenths. It gives you a great deal more variety instead of having the standard, which most shops have, with length, which is usually quarter, 3/8, half inch, 5/8, 3/4. It's nice to have those 5/8, 9/16, half inch, 7/16, etc. Those in-between gaps to fit to your mouth. So sometimes if you have a 5/8 barbell in there and it's kind of uncomfortable and you're noticing a lot of contact, switching out to a 9/16 may be the perfect fit for you. But you don't know that unless it's measured properly and you have access to that jewelry in the first place. Another thing you can do to reduce the amount of pressure or activity or contact that you have is to go with smaller ends or ends that are shaped differently. Instead of going with balls, go with the dome-shaped ones with a flat bottom, or go with flat discs. I've had a lot of clients that complain about discomfort in the palate area, the underneath of the mouth, and switching out to a labrae-style flat disc solved that problem and gave them less contact with that area and even the front of their teeth. I've also had clients that have worn them on the top and had good success with them. Another thing to consider is if you're one of those people that likes to stretch piercings, and tongues are fairly easy to stretch. The larger you go in gauge, the thicker the jewelry is, and the bigger the ball has to be. So a 14 gauge 5/8 might be overall length somewhere around 3/4 of an inch. If you do let's say a 4 gauge, it's probably be closer to 7/8 of an inch. And the reason is that ball has to be big enough to fit onto that jewelry. So whenever deciding to stretch piercings, take into account that each step is going to make that barbell longer and give you more contact with teeth, gums, and bones. Another thing you want to consider, especially during the healing time, when you get over that swelling and you start to adapt yourself onto solid foods, is be very patient. Don't rush yourself. Take plenty of time. You're learning the way to eat with that barbell in there. If you're very patient, take your time, and relax with it, you're probably going to come up with a much better method than if you just start shoving things into your mouth as fast as you can and chewing as fast as you can. Also, you're going to be more prone to catching the barbell during that period, that frustrating period of adaptation, than you will be afterwards. So don't damage your teeth and gums right off the bat. Take your time, be patient. It eventually will become stranger to have that barbell out of there than to have it in. The other thing is stop playing with the damn piercing. Leave it alone. Obsessively playing with piercings is generally chewing on it with your teeth. Your teeth are not as tough as that implant grade titanium or implant grade surgical stainless steel. They will give, they will break, and they will erode from that contact. Obsessively playing with piercings is going to cause damage to your teeth. So stop playing with it. Another thing to do is make sure you monitor contact that any area that is a hot spot. Any area in your mouth where it seems like the barbell comes in contact more often, monitor that area for tenderness and signs of erosion. And the first sign that you have any issues starting with that, remove the jewelry immediately and let the piercing close. Basically leaving it in there is probably just going to increase the likelihood of that. Another option would be possibly going to a shorter barbell or trying some type of different ends to reduce that amount of contact. As far as different ends and different materials, I just did a video last week, and I will post it in the comments on acrylic and whether or not you should wear it in the mouth. Acrylic will always give before your teeth do. However, it's probably not the best thing to have plastic in your mouth and ingesting it on a regular basis. The other thing is, in your mouth, acrylic will deteriorate and become fragile and scratch and etc., which can cause a whole host of other problems. Another option is softer materials, softer metals, and the only softer metal I would suggest putting in a tongue piercing would be gold. Gold will generally give before your teeth well. It is not cheap. It's very expensive. However, it can be a safety measure as far as avoiding chipping or cracking teeth. The key is just to kind of refresh, is have the correct placement. Have it as back as far as you possibly can. The second thing is to wear the proper jewelry. Wear jewelry that fits the mouth correctly and fits your tongue piercing correctly. The other thing is experiment with different jewelry sizes when there's an issue. Try going slightly shorter. Look for those odd size or odd lengths to see what works best for you. Also try ends that have lower profiles. Another thing I didn't really cover before, but avoid shaped objects or things that have things attached to it. All of those things are going to increase your likelihood of doing damage to teeth and gums. So always keep that in mind. Then stop playing with it. Don't play with it all the time. Let it just sit stationary in your mouth. Show it off when you feel like it. Enjoy it, in other ways, but don't play with it constantly. It'll eventually become, and I've seen this happen with clients and friends, it becomes a nervous tick. They start grinding the barbell against their teeth in the same way they would grind their teeth if they're nervous or in a stressful situation. This is going to cause issues because suddenly, instead of it being something that you do occasionally, it's a habit. And it's something you're doing when you don't even notice you're doing it. Other thing is try alternative different ends and alternative different types of materials. So I hope that's all I have to say on that subject today. I hope that you learned something. I hope it was informative or kind of cleared a few things up. If you feel like I didn't, leave a comment. I generally answer all the comments if I have time or if it shows up in my notification properly, which sometimes it doesn't. And I don't blame you for that. I blame YouTube for that. But, hey, this service is incredible, so I'm not going to complain too much. If you liked the video, and especially if you found it informative or educational, please give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos on body piercing and tattooing, body modification in general, or body arts, with a focus on education, hit the subscription and ring the notification bell so you're notified every single time we post something. If you would like to support the channel and show your love for the channel and also your love for body art and etc., check out our merch store. We have various different designs designed by myself and the artists of Skin Kitchen, various different forms of swag. So check that out and get something cool and be stylish. Lastly, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your piercing needs in the future. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day, because it's up to you. And go out there and do something special and reward yourself, because you're good people.